Welcome to From the Quarries. Tonight's presentation, Sects, Secret Societies and Initiatic Orders, was written by Yves-Fred Boisset in 1998. In this work, he gives a very convincing argument to prove that Freemasonry is neither a sect nor a secret society, but is very clearly an initiatic order. This he proves through careful definition and clearly explains why Freemasonry belongs to the third of these three types of societies. I hope you enjoy it. Good evening and welcome to tonight's presentation, From the Quarries, an archive of Masonic lore. For quite some time now, the Euro-American media abounds with publications of all kinds on sects, secret societies, and initiatic orders, which, in the mind of the average reader, and even the above the average, often represent one and the same thing. However, this is nothing but a superficial view of an extremely old phenomenon, at least as old as socialized humanity itself, and is likely to spread confusion in the mind of the public. In addition, at a time when the question of sects is more than ever under public scrutiny, and at this time when there is a multiplicity of controversies on the subject, it seems appropriate to establish certain ideas with regard to the differences between these three groupings. In this regard, it would be useful to recall some fundamental concepts, because even if, for us traditionalists, things in this field seem to be obvious, things could only go better if we said them. Therefore, after consulting a few dictionaries and encyclopedias, the following definitions emerge. Sect. This word has two etymological origins, both of which are Latin. Sequi, to follow, and secare, to cut off. From this fact, and sticking simply to this double etymology, one could deduce that a sect is constituted of a gathering or coming together of people who have separated themselves, cut themselves off from a common trunk, and or who more or less blindly follow a leader. It is well known that throughout their history, all of the great religions have given birth to a certain number of sects. This generally occurred each time an individual or group of individuals disagreed on a point of the dogma, a moral principle, or even with the uses of the religion which they professed. In any event, a sect is always endowed with religious or pseudo-religious nature. It is, through ignorance or derision, that one sometimes calls sects groups which are completely indifferent to any religious preoccupation. On the other hand, there is reason to distinguish between sects, secare, such as the multiple Protestant sects born of successive schisms, and those sects, sequi, hatched of their own initiative, such as those which are more precisely the subject of recent attention. Secret societies. They consist of individuals, socius, who jointly pursue a mission which is hostile to the established order. This fact obliges them, for obvious reasons of safety, to meet and act in a clandestine way, sheltered from the inquisitive eyes of the mass, and more particularly from public authorities and the forces of law enforcement. This appellation of secret society can cover a broad range of activities. These range from a network of resistance, whose goal is to release the fatherland from foreign occupation by kicking the enemy out of one's national territory, to the subversive movement which aims to destabilize or to reverse a regime already in place. These latter also foment disorder and perpetrate acts of terrorism, and, by way of the information services, engage in espionage and against espionage, which are, for obvious reasons, organized within secret societies. Initiatic orders. Attached to a traditional movement, an initiatic order has as its raison d'etre the conduct of its members from the ordinary state of consciousness to a philosophical state. That is to say, initiatic orders are concerned with the moral, intellectual, and spiritual elevation of their members through the knowledge of those great mystical principles which govern life in its apparent multiplicity. Initiatic orders differ from the religious orders only in the esoteric dimensions of their teachings, even though certain religious orders are much closer to the initiatic orders than it may appear at first sight. That having been said and acknowledged, the entire history of humanity testifies to the fact that membership in a sect, in a secret society, or in an initiatic order arises from the real needs of human nature. The need to withdraw oneself from a world which is often too oppressive, the need to belong to an elite, or to that which one believes to be an elite, the need to share in secret with a small number of one's peers, the need to feel protected, modern terminology would say secure, while taking refuge in a social microcosm, a veritable cell in which one feels sheltered from external aggression and in one which one may temporarily abdicate one's responsibilities. The need to distinguish oneself from the herd. Let us now examine the principal criteria upon which these various types of organizations rest. In doing so, let us, for the moment, set aside consideration of secret societies and confine ourselves to the examination of those differences which exist between sects and initiatic orders, differences which one finds in their modes of recruitment, their methods, and their objectives. Modes of recruitment. Sects have the habit of recruiting their members from among the anxious and the depressive. In a word, from among those who are not comfortable within themselves. That is to say, from among all those who, rejecting society, family, social and family obligations, are in search of an indefinable ideal of life due to their lack of reflection. Sects like the Munis or Hare Krishna, as well as others, are past masters in art and the manner of trapping these unhappy drifters, these castaways of existence. Initiatic orders recruit their associates from among men and women of desire. In other words, from among those who, also in search of an ideal, and who in truth is not, wish to participate in the construction of a better world, a freer and more fraternal world. These are men and women who, at a given moment in their lives, have sensed the vanity of the material aspects of life, aspects which are but the support of the universal spirit which hovers above water. Unstable individuals, desperate individuals, do have no place in initiatic orders and are generally not accepted, except by error or by laxity, and under those conditions they never remain very long. Methods. In sects, the teaching is dispensed by masters who are considered to be infallible, gurus in other words. It is laced with repeated drafts of false certainty and often founded on the doubtful amalgam of disparate borrowings from the Bible and Hindu texts, the whole remaining deliberately superficial. Physical and moral constraints, drug addiction, along with complete and prolonged isolation from the external world, complete the work of intellectual and psychological conversion of the individual. In this respect, the leaders of these sects behave in the same way as do the brainwashers in the work camps or re-education facilities of certain states. On the other hand, in initiatic orders, the recipient is encouraged to preserve and develop his or her critical sense, his or her free will. The teaching is not authoritative, but mutual. Prayer is practiced, but it should be well understood that prayer is not a source of alienation, but, in truth, assures intellectual and spiritual freedom because it connects man to God. That is to say, prayer is the link between man and the generative and dispensing principle of the Spirit, and flies beyond masters, beyond gurus and other followers, above dogmas and fixed teachings. The purpose of the rituals which are based upon symbolic language are not to condition the participants, but to create within them the serenity necessary to any constructive exchange, while keeping alive the traditional roots of initiation. Finally, it will be noted that the members of initiatic orders retain their social freedom and are not cut off from the world. Goals. Sects work toward the goal of creating easy-to-handle groups, which, in the short term, could be subjected to economic interests and, in the longer term, to remote control by political ambitions. All of this under the cover of a vague religious ideal centered on the arbitrary rejection of the Western values, which is only a pretext. As for initiatic orders, they have as their goal the spiritual elevation of their associates, so that they may better serve humanity, and, in addition, that they better accomplish in society, in their family life as well as in their professional life, in their private affairs as in their public affairs, any goal which they may be led to set for themselves. One will notice in passing that sects and secret societies at all times have applied themselves to mimicking the initiatic orders. They invent for themselves rituals, words and signs of recognition, concoct secrets, and make their members take oaths. One sees that they are there only pretenses intended to impact the mind of those who have fallen into their snares, the better to retain them. Moreover, one does not easily withdraw from this kind of organization. And without quoting the extreme rules of the mafia, which wishes that renegades be assassinated, even the mildly renegade ones, one knows that the moral and physical treatments undergone in so many of these sects and secret societies greatly limit the chances for deserters to resume a normal life. On the other hand, one can, at any time and for any reason whatsoever, freely quit an initiatic order without incurring reprisals, contrary to what is claimed with dishonesty by certain authors in bad company. It is neither a lack objectively nor to prove one's mental capabilities from the bell tower to affirm that there exists at the present time but few veritable initiatic orders, and that Martinism and Freemasonry certainly appear to be the most traditionalists and most regular among them. Neither one nor the other is a sect because they are not the result of a schism, one does not find gurus there, and furthermore, they are not secret societies because they respect the freedom of their members, they entertain no political goals. The participation in political debate by certain Masonic obediences, for example, arises only from their civic duties, which is very proper for the initiate. Freedom of conscience and of expression, equality of rights and duties of members, the hierarchy of the ranks and the functions being only initiatic. true fraternity in joy as well as in affliction. Such are the criteria of the initiatic orders. Such orders have no other desire than the spiritual, intellectual, and moral progress of all humanity, the gathering of the men and women of goodwill and desire.